One of the earliest really high-profile racist acts in the media of Donald Trump came about back in 1989 during the Central Park 5 jogger case. And so if you're not familiar with the case, which happened in Manhattan, a 28-year-old banker who'd been jogging at night in Central Park was raped, bludgeoned with a rock, and was found hours later tied up, stripped, and suffering from hypothermia and brain damage, which included an inability to remember the details of what had happened during that case. Now, immediately after, a group of 5 teenage boys who were in the park at the time and were suspected of being involved possibly with some other crime were arrested for the assault. After extended questioning over 2 days, during which the suspects claimed they were deprived of sleep and food, police say they confessed to the crime, although none acknowledged actually raping the victim. And they all later said that they had actually not committed the crime. Now, it's extremely important for you to understand that at this point that 4 of the 5 were black, 1 was Hispanic, and some people came out in the media and were quite sure of what should happen to these 5 individuals, including Donald Trump, who published this. A full-page ad you're going to see there. Bring back the death penalty. Bring back our police. One small portion of that, which you can find online to read it in its entirety, says, "I want to hate these muggers and murderers. They should be forced to suffer, and when they kill, they should be executed for their crimes. They must serve as examples so that others will think long and hard before committing a crime or an act of violence," showing that Donald Trump, like many in this country, doesn't understand why people commit acts of crime and murder. I don't think they do it because they think, well, if I get put in jail for 70 years, that's not so bad. Oh my God, they'll kill me, well, then I'm not going to do it. But he is simplistic in his thinking, and so that's what he thought. Now, despite his high-profile call for them to be executed for what they did, it turns out it wasn't actually them in the end at all. In 2002, another man, a convicted rapist and murderer, confessed to the assault, and his DNA did match semen that was found on the victim. No DNA evidence has been found to tie any of the Central Park 5 to the crime. They were exonerated and 12 years later paid $41 million in a settlement. Now, you might say up until this point that Donald Trump, like many, thought, perhaps because of their proximity to the crime, or perhaps because of their races, that they were responsible for this. And so people can be wrong. But that was 14 years ago that we found out who actually did it. And he still believes that he was right all along. He was asked about the Central Park 5 and said this: "They admitted they were guilty. The police doing the original investigation say they were guilty. The fact that that case was settled with so much evidence against them is outrageous. And the woman so badly injured will never be the same." He still says they did it and should be killed for it.
I actually think this is the single worst thing I've heard about Trump. And now that's a hell of a thing to say because he's said and did some unbelievable things. But, okay, just like John said, in the beginning, you demagogued on it. And God, you were so wrong. What if they had actually executed those kids? So there is no question. They got a $41 million settlement for a reason. Yeah. There is no question they did not do it. The guy who confessed to the crime in 2002, his DNA matches. There's no question. He confessed to it. He is a serial rapist and murderer, okay? It's that guy. Okay. For him to say, "I don't care," we should have executed the black kids anyway. Oh my God. Because that shows you that if he's president, the most powerful man on earth, does not care about evidence at all, does not care about facts, the only thing he cares about is his ego. So even if he's proven 100% wrong and clearly wrong, he will not change his mind. Hey, President Trump, we should not launch the nukes. It turns out we were wrong. They did not launch against us, right? It turns out we were wrong about X, Y, or Z. Nope, I'm never wrong. I'm never wrong. I don't care. Execute them anyway. What kind of a monster would want to take it out on those innocent kids anyway? Are you really that bad? Are you a conservative who thinks, I don't care that they're not guilty. I don't care. I'm with Donald. I think that they should be in prison, executed. I don't care. They're guilty, even though everyone in the world, including the New York cops, the New York prosecutors, everybody in New York says they are not guilty. But no, I'm with Donald Trump. If we thought it was the black kids in the beginning, it's the black kids, and I'm not going to have a conversation about it. If you agree with that, you're just as monstrous as he is. And then they complain about Hillary Clinton saying basket of deplorables.
Yeah. Again, these are his supporters, though. You have to understand that These are the same people who every time that the police shoot a black person, well, he didn't comply. Even if his hands were up and, you know, whatever, he didn't comply. To Trump supporters, to this group, to say that these 5 black kids did it and I don't care about the evidence, they're all like, yeah, of course they did it. There were 5 or 4 black kids and a Latin kid. To them, this is absolutely true that they did it, and it was somehow, you know, that they were exonerated for it and all that. It's the liberals going easy on crime and we should be tough on crime. And, you know, if you killed 5 of them, I bet you could, if they were being recorded or if they didn't think you were listening, they'd say, well, they were guilty of something else, so we killed them, so who cares? We got rid of 5 criminals, you know. I mean, this was a bad time. This was also the time that led up to Hillary Clinton's super predator thing and this and that. I mean, this was a time when this was the thought, when you know, there were roving packs I
was living in New York then.
Stuff. Yeah. So
wilding, that's what they
called
it.
Wilding, right. It was the common belief, but now to say now after science and DNA and et cetera has proven they're innocent, to still say they're guilty, he's talking to his base. He's talking to his base.
Yeah. So the really interesting part of that is that for those guys, it isn't about the crime. It's about the race. So hear me out on this. Because you say, I've got the actual criminal. I've got the guy who was doing all the crime that you were so afraid of. The guy who was raping and killing, and he had bludgeoned her with the thing. I got the guy. I don't care about that. I want to punish the other guys. Why? Why? Because it's not about the crime. Because to them, the guilty are the blacks. And so because guys, don't you, like, all this thirst for vengeance against these kids in this case. The other thing that drives me crazy, because I was a prosecutor for like a very brief period of time, just as an intern, a couple of summers, but I thought about being a prosecutor for a living, right? That's because I have empathy and I cared about the victims. Don't you care about the victims at all? Because if you cared about the victims, you'd want to get the right guy.
Yeah.
You'd want to make sure that he didn't victimize anyone else and that you got justice for that poor woman who was bludgeoned and raped and nearly murdered in such terrible shape. But you don't care about that. You care about, let's go get those guys whether they were guilty or not. And that says a lot about the people who think that way.